sponsored by PowerfulWomenUSA.com. Hi, everybody. I'm Jill Conway, and this is Secrets of Powerful Women, a show dedicated to celebrating strong and powerful women and sharing their stories. I am hoping that you will be inspired and feel empowered and discover your own power. My guest today is Mae Caime, and Mae is Miss New York Senior America and CEO of Amaezing MidLife and Beyond, which she created to empower women, discredit ageism in the workplace, and support transformational change in business and in life. So I love this entire concept and support it 1,000%. And please welcome to the show, Mae. Hey, Mae.
Hey, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me. I feel... it's full of energy.
It's so exciting, and it's a great message what you're doing. So tell everybody how you got to the point where you're doing this. What do you do exactly? You're a speaker, you're a coach.
Yeah, so I'm a speaker, coach, and I put together women's events, summits that focus primarily on well-being, not executive leadership, with my background being a CEO and all. I think there's plenty of them out there for executive leadership. Mm-hmm. I wanted to focus on the well-being of a woman, because if we're not taking care of ourselves, we can't be powerful leaders.
Right.
And I think a lot of that gets pushed aside. No one talks about that, about how we maintain our self-esteem, our self-confidence, moving forward, transition, and juggling all of what life has to offer, especially from midlife and beyond.
Oh my God, because it's so hard and there's very little support, especially in the workplace.
Very little. Yeah. Very little. There's a couple of companies that will do some wellness and intervention and stuff, but it's usually basic. It's usually a little bit on nutrition, a little bit on, how we should have some exercise and movement, but there's just so much more that women need to navigate, especially, like I said, hitting that number 40, from hormones to our, bodying our body balance, and, the next stages of life.
We're finally talking about it. I feel like as a nation, we're starting to scratch the surface of menopause and the amazing changes that are going through your body that as no one has spoken about in years and years, right? I saw something today where someone said, in medical school, they only get about an hour training, doctors, about menopause, which is so outrageous to me.
It's absolutely outrageous. It's similar to nutrition. It's like the things nobody talks about. We're always fixing the problems instead of preventing the problems, where with menopause and all of that today, so much of it is preventable, but there's this old false narrative that, hormone replacement therapy was a nightmare from years ago, done from a one-time little small study that estrogen was going to create breast cancer all over the world, especially with October being breast cancer month, right, for women. Right. That is absolutely false. There's a small percentage that have susceptibility to getting it, but generally women need estrogen. Right. They need it's their brain power, and they need testosterone for their leadership and their physical ability. There's this balance, and there's no reason that we should be deprived of it.
Right.
That's what the insanity to me is. Why should we be deprived of something that's available?
Right. Which is the reason, right? Our estrogen goes down and then the brain fog starts and all the other symptoms that no one tells you about. And you think you're going crazy, right? And you get, when I started, I'm 52. And when I started in my 40s and I was still working in news at the time, and I felt horrible. I had this brain fog. All of a sudden, weight was pouring on me, and I didn't know why. I was exhausted. All these things. I was having headache. I laugh at it now, but I had these outbursts of like so angry, and I was like, wait a minute, like that's not me. Where is this even coming from? And yet I went to the doctor, and they said, well, welcome to your 40s. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, there's no help for me? There's nothing?
Yeah. And that's I think the thing that's frustrating for most women, because a lot of times it's seen as, oh, you're anxious now, so you're given medication, or you're depressed and you're given medication for that. But really the root cause to all of it is our hormones. And it really is mind-blowing. And there's many functional physicians that specialize in it that, I'm very fortunate as a VIP connector that I'm connected to refer women that really actually need it. It could change someone. Now, myself, I was more fortunate, didn't have, crazy amount of all, but I changed my diet while I was going through it. There's certain, foods that trigger us. Alcohol consumption triggers us more. We have to be exercising. There's a lot of things that we're trying to balance. And then also balancing our lives, which is generally, whether you're a CEO of being a mom at home, you're still a CEO, right? A family, or your jobs, and then parents and the elderly and young kids and all of that. So there really is help out there. It's just people don't know where to get it. Yeah. And then we kind of get consumed with what's on the internet, and we think that it's a one fix for everyone, and it is not. We're all individuals and we're made up differently. So we need different assistance, and that's what we need to search out.
Now let's, you were a nurse, so you do know a lot about this stuff. Yeah. And, so let's talk about how you became a nurse. What was that like? And then how did you end up to where you are now? You became Miss New York, Senior America.
Yeah, 2023.
2023. Once Miss Senior America, always, in my opinion.
I say once a queen, always a queen.
Exactly, right?
We're all queens,
right? That's true. But how did this all play out? So
really quickly, I'll just give you, I started as, very young, 1976, graduating as a registered nurse, and did my career in pediatrics and emergency medicine. And in that field, of course, I was hustling and working. So I worked in urgent care medicine, set up the first doc in the box, which was back and then.
Wow.
Way, way back before they recycled. It's almost like, things come around. And
what is doc in the box?
Well, it's the urgent care centers that walked in. But back then it was Flashner and Island Medical. We were the first on the island. I formed a travel medicine clinic. So it was a phenomenal, transition, because I knew medicine. So to run a big practice and to build multi-million-dollar practices was kind of easier for me. Sure. And I understood the finance part. And through all of that, then I left that, and like all of us, hormone problems and autoimmune, et cetera, changed careers. I had a children's store. Went back into what I did, consulting, built another multi-million-dollar practice. And then, things, change, anything as we evolve, and we start to see that. And I think as we progress in our careers, we recognize that, who we are as women, and we start to identify what is our role versus what our soul is fulfilled by. Oh. And though I loved what I did, it was not as fulfilling, and I did very well. I made a lot of money, but
that really has nothing to do with it, right?
No, in the big picture. And one of the reasons I had left her was they were pulling back on charity work. So I went to switch and said, you know what, this is my time. I'm going to go into health and wellness. I left this very big job, and I went into it,
which is scary. That is very scary.
It was very scary. The first time I left my first career, when I was and I was had a baby, I was the breadwinner at the time, and and I really didn't have a backup plan so of course I crashed and burned. I lost my house, my cars, my gosh. But you know what? You learn from experience. You build, you recover. That's where I think I have expertise and can support women on how we learn from our mistakes. So when I quit my second big CEO position, I had a backup plan. At least I had some money in the bank. Someone always said that to me, always have a plan B.
Yeah. And you don't know that. And at that time, I was still in news at the time, and I was like, why would I need a plan B? No, but things change. Life changes.
Yeah. So when I left this big position, I went into health and wellness, and what did I open? But a spa for health and well-being, wow. And it was incredible. I gave out mimosas, and we had champagne, and you had a whole experience in a sanctuary room. It was rocking. It was 11 months and COVID hit.
Oh,
so
wow.
So it was crash and burn.
But you pivoted again.
I pivoted again. I became a CEO in the production world, worked for NBC, Netflix, Disney. The film industry kept going, so we were filming. Wow. And I was the director of keeping everyone safe and making sure they had their masks and their sanitizers and all those things, and testing. And then I went on a medical mission work to Zimbabwe. And while I was there, I got COVID. Didn't get it the whole time I was here with all of that production world.
Right.
But upon coming back, I was like, you know what? That's going to end. Thank God. Mm-hmm. We got past that, scenario with COVID and all. And I said, so what's next? And this is where Amaezing MidLife and Beyond came in, because I decided, after a 50-year career, right? I'm 66 now. I'm going to maybe apply for some jobs and recognize the fact that, guess what? Crickets. Right. Absolute crickets. No one called. They said, oh, you're overqualified. You want too much money. You know, whatever everybody kept telling me the reasons were. And I said, this is unfair for women. Oh, this is unfair. And I'm sure it affects men too. Probably not as much. I have to, being out there.
Men, I think, are viewed as more distinguished when they get older. And women, it's just like,
yeah. And I think we're, labeled. We're not techie. We can't really learn. We're kind of old school. And I basically had a hissy fit.
Good for you.
And I said, you know what? I've got to get this out here. And that's where the pageant came in. I never did a pageant, would never have thought of that in a million years.
Yeah, you're stunning. You are a beautiful woman.
Thank you. Thank you. But I was like, another thing that women do, right? I was like, I don't want to do that. People are going to think I need my ego and judge me. And why am I doing this? And it's to get accolades. I'm like, I don't need these accolades. I have really good self-esteem, and self-confidence. So I was like, but a woman said to me, you know what? Use it as a megaphone to discredit ageism. You can use this. And when she said that, it just clicked. It just snapped. And I said, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. And it was probably one of the most uncomfortable experiences I've had in ages. That was the other thing. As we start to age, we get comfortable and we stop taking risks. And I don't mean, I've jumped out of an airplane, but I'm not saying that everyone has to do that, right? Yeah. So but take risks to do something new. It could be, stained glass artwork. It could be painting, a ballroom dance, whatever it is. That's what keeps you having an ageless attitude and young. Is being engaged in life and still evolving and stimulated. And again, everyone has different levels. Mine's probably a little high in the energy level, but that's what it is. And by doing that, and now I speak with senior groups, and when I say to them, this is another thing that gets me so crazy. You hear so many women blame so many things on different things, but if they do forget things and they start to get older, they say, oh, you know what? Oh, I'm having a senior moment. I said, okay, we got to stop this language. Just because you became a senior doesn't mean you lose your mind. You haven't lost your mind. Do you know what I mean? From now on, you're going to say you're having a teenage moment. I said, because there isn't a teenager who doesn't know where their car keys are, their books are, their crap. They're like all over the place. Right. And people laugh about that. I go, but you see, I said, because, 70% of all dementia is preventable if we stay active. I'm sure there is Alzheimer's. I've done that walk, but a lot of it is preventable. It's what are we doing? Right. From hormone replacement to...
Well, that affects your brain, of course it does. Yeah.
Your diet, your exercise, and continuing to learn and be around people that are energetic.
Right. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it's so sad. It's you know what? It's so true. If people just keep going. Don't just because you're, how often have you heard it that people say, I'm a certain age, I'm too old to do that. And they're not old. They're, 50, 60, 70. And you're like, what are you talking about?
I hear that. That's really where this whole format came in and why I do what I do, because I try to tell people that now it's almost easier. Now you could just do things, and if you fail, who cares? Back then, maybe when you're 30, you're 35, you feel everybody's judging. Yeah. It's not that you don't care anymore, but you kind of have to, you take a deep breath and realize, life is short, and without taking any chances and enjoying it. It's like when people still say, oh, I don't want to dance, I don't dance. Nobody's really looking at you. And I think that all comes into a lot of what I talk about with women is self-esteem and self-confidence. I deal with a lot of women executives, and they are very self-confident because it's on the value of what they produce. The focus is what they are producing. Oh. So, of course, right? So, they're going to get results.
But then if they lose their job, they lose their identity.
They lose their identity. Right. And also, they don't have enough. It's basically self-esteem is your self-worth, and you only see how worthy you are if you're producing and doing a certain thing. And if you're not, you lose that. That's why women have the hardest time during transition or leaving something. It's like what's my purpose?
You mean leaving a job or
or a marriage or whatever the relationship, change, it throws people off.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my gosh. And sometimes it's okay to be circling and to be listening. People forget that it's okay, that every moment, especially for me, who was a very driven, to sit back and try to circle for a while, I called it. Like, I'm in limbo. Like, what am I doing? Was a little scary and frustrating. Sure. I'm like, okay, what's next? There's got to be something. Right. I think sometimes we need to quiet our mind and sit.
And it's okay not to know, right?
Yes.
We don't give ourselves the grace to just be like, I don't have it figured out yet. I don't have to.
Yes. Right. Sometimes, you just, certain things I have to agree, you have to just let unfold a little bit.
Right.
And see what, happens during that transition. And of course, it's different for everybody depending on the need. If you have a major financial need, of course, you drive, and what we choose to do in our lives gets determined sometimes that way, not really what's, fulfills us. But in the bottom line, that old saying, if you do what you love.
Yeah. You don't work a day in your life or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've had so many different, jobs, essentially, so many careers. And I admire that because I feel like I'm doing that too. So you're clearly an entrepreneur, right? So when you left your first job and as a nurse, at that time, what were people saying to you? Were they saying like you're crazy or?
Oh, they said I was out of my mind.
Right. Right.
I'm not going to, and then these were, family.
Yeah.
Thank God I had, a husband who understood the situation.
And understoed you.
And understood me, but, they were like, what are you doing?
Right.
You've got some life. I traveled 4 vacations a year. Right. I'm not going to say I spent every penny. My accountant hated me. He was like, you have not a penny. I'm like, I don't care. I'm living. I could die tomorrow. That was always my philosophy. I'll be dead tomorrow. Let's live. Accountants don't ever like me for that. But then you learn also that, okay.
You need something.
You need something.
Right.
But I had a lot of that kind of a thing. I'm like, well, I'll figure it out. If it doesn't work, But I think, So I did. It was scary at times, and then I went very diverse. I went from, medical, which is right.
Yeah.
To owning a children's store.
That is, well, you needed a break.
I needed a break from doctors and medicine and the stress. And I said, okay, I'll own a children's store.
Yeah, right.
And, it was wonderful. It didn't make a lot of money, but it was wonderful. I set actually 2 other people in career paths through it because they became artists and it went well. They're still in business today doing that.
Wow.
So sometimes and you develop good friendships.
Right.
So that's what I said. So it was a big financial move to create wonderful friendships.
Right. Well, but in a way, I think all those things kind of happen for a reason. And I hate that phrase sometimes because everyone overuses it, but maybe you were supposed to be there to do that, to launch these other people, right?
Yes. Oh, I agree. Yeah. That was definitely a path.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that sometimes I see many women do, and I try to help and support. And I do that in the sense that it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to fail. Because I always say failure is just a learning experience. I mean, if you don't learn and you do the same failure, I mean, there are people who, get married 5 times. Well, obviously you're not learning.
To the same guy, but who looks different.
So I'm like, all right, we're not learning.
Right,
we need a little more help there. But if you're doing stuff and you fail and you learn and you fail and you learn,
Isn't that what life is, though?
It is.
Why do we all have to have it figured out?
We don't. And I think if we accept that,
right,
we're happier. Because I'm a pretty happy person.
Yeah.
And everyone says, oh, how come you're so positive and you're happy? And I go, because you can look at it like it's, like it sucks. Let's call it what it is.
Right.
Or that it's it's going to get better.
Right.
I remember Christmas Eve. I do remember that, sitting, and it was Christmas Eve when I had quit the first job and I had this children's store, and it was I woke up in the morning, my son was 2 years old or 2.5, and I woke up and I went down and the car was gone. They repoed it.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, oh my
Merry
gosh.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas. I'm like, well, so what do? You say, I have my health, I have that, I can replace the car.
Right.
Somehow it will work out.
Somehow.
And I just, you have to. And what I've had as losses and other people have been worse.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing as women too, how we hold on to things. I always say one of my biggest successes is teaching women how to forgive.
Ooh, we're going to come back with that. So we have about 20 seconds left before the break, but I know that's going to be good, Mae. So, all right, we'll be back with Mae Caime, Miss New York Senior America and CEO of Amaezing MidLife and Beyond. After the commercial break, her website, amaezingmidlife.com. Right? And the link will be on my podcast on my website. You're listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. Join our community. Head to Powerful Women USA, and for more information, follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. Mae Caime. Mae is here, and she is Miss New York Senior America and CEO of Amaezing MidLife and Beyond, which she created to empower women, discredit ageism in the workplace, and support transformational change in business and in life. So Mae is here, and we left off we were talking about forgiveness, right? But I just wanted to ask you something quick about as Miss New York Senior America. What was the platform? What I know you said you were like, people thought you were like, what are you doing? What are you doing? But like, why? How was that? First of all,
that was a wild ride. I was not anticipating it. I had to come up with a talent. I mean, all right, I don't sing. Oh my God. And I don't play an instrument. That's the last thing you want me to do is sing. There was no singing voice. They're like, you could do it. I'm like, oh, no. So I became a really great dancer, obviously enough to win, and third in the U.S. and, all of that. Oh, yeah. So, but it was a great experience because it was something I'd never done before. Mm-hmm. I had to get up and publicly speak and listen. Wow. There's no bikini contest, but, a gown and your philosophy on life. And my philosophy on life was actually forgiveness.
Wow.
It's funny, we were just talking about that, right? Yeah. So, and then you speak about what that means. And my platform was really to discredit ageism for women, and also supporting the American Heart Association, since it's the #1 killer for women.
Oh, wow.
Heart disease.
Wow.
And as a nurse, that kind of fell into place.
Sure. All right. So let's talk about forgiveness. Then what do you mean by forgiveness? Forgiveness of yourself, forgiveness of others? Like,
it's both.
Okay.
So I basically, my thing was, forgiveness is an opportunity, right? To forgive yourself and to forgive others. And I think sometimes it's a little easier sometimes to forgive others than it is ourselves. And when I say forgiveness, it's not about forgetting. So that's the thing. Everybody's like, oh, I can't, I'm not talking the mass murderer who, something like that. I'm talking like marital things, abuse. Right. Those are pretty heavy things to forgive. Sure. Infidelity, a friend, stabs you in the back, a job that, robbing, whatever it might be. But if you really analyze it and you don't forgive and you hold on to that anger and resentment, the only thing it does is corrode your own heart.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything to help yourself or anyone else. Mm-hmm. And it just fuels it. And it also makes you become judgmental. Ooh. Because what happens is, especially if it's something you've done, you internalize that, and you judge other people. And you have to sometimes, in an empathetic way or whatever, it's not justification, but understanding we don't know the journey that somebody went through.
Right.
We don't know, were they abused as a child? Would they, what was that, because we all go back to that. Those are another therapist group, but, childhood trauma or whatever it might be. Why did some people get past it? Why do some people don't? Whatever it might be, they were, whatever the history might have been,
right.
relationship,
whatever it is. That moment is for you. Right.
So you have to, and it all comes down to perception and interpretation. And I use this little analogy And the only reason is because someone had said to me, my mother always made me feel like, she had to sell stuff for me, and she had to get rid of things because she had to take care of me. And I always felt, I owed her, and blah, 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 blah. And turned it around and said, how about instead of looking about how she always complained about how she had to do everything, that she was telling you this because she loved you so much that she did sell everything. To get rid of it, right? If you start to reevaluate how we want to hear it and how it really can be turned around to be heard. And again, it's not to forget and to say, okay, now this is going to be your best buddy, especially in families when there's, a death of parents and there's financial stuff. But what was their underlying motive that you may not have known? And if you hang on to it too long, it just destroys you. It just destroys you. And again, it's not about forgetting. It's about forgiving and letting it go from yourself. And that is one of the things that I do and talk about, and we'll be doing it in a monthly course starting in January after that, because I think it holds a lot of people out.
Sure.
And also women, we're so critical. It comes with that too, of ourselves. And then because of that, we judge other women.
Right.
I hear so many, and I do hear this, women will say, oh, look at her. Well, of course she looks good. And this is like, oh my gosh, because she gets Botox, or she's got, she's at the gym, and she's got a ton of money, and her husband's this. And I say, are you saying that because you're envious and jealous because you don't have the money or you don't have the guts to do Botox?
Right.
Because otherwise, that makes her happy.
Exactly.
Does it really matter?
Exactly.
So we're very quick to point out whatever, because maybe we're not comfortable in our own skin to wear the crazy outfit somebody may have on, or whatever it might be. So I think, forgiveness and judgment are kind of negative things that we need to, as women, get rid of.
I agree with you.
To uplift and support instead of figuring out what's wrong with us, what's good with us. And that goes into self-esteem. Get up in the morning and say, what's good about me? Not what's bad. I mean, we look at the mirrors, we all have those big magnifiers, because we all need, I need glasses at this point, right? Yeah. Oh, there's a mark, there's a line, instead of looking and saying, hey, you know what? I look good today. I feel great. I'm going to rock this day. And I'm like, I am good. I'm gorgeous, or whatever. Affirmations, 90 days, take a long time, but you can change how you think, and then how you flip around when you're saying something negative to yourself. And you'd be shocked how many negative things you say to yourself a day.
It's so funny because I've been doing that work, and once you start paying attention, right, and you're like, wow, I would never, the things I've said to myself, I would never say to a friend, right? I would never say to someone I love or like even, but we say it to ourselves. Yeah.
And women also have a real hard time accepting compliments.
Yeah.
So I have a friend, and I said to her, and this is a great analogy. She was like, her daughter told her she looked really beautiful. And she goes, and I told her, oh, I don't like this outfit, blah, blah, blah. And I said to her, finally, because I said to her, you are so selfish. And she said, what? I said, you're really selfish. I said, you just robbed your daughter of making you feel good by complimenting you. And you negated her feeling good about herself by helping you. See, that's what compliments are about.
Wow.
When you compliment somebody, you're generating positive energy. Yeah. That your reaction will make that person feel good. Right. So if you go, oh, thank you, and a smile, they're happy. Yeah. If you negate it and go, oh, this old thing, or I've had this for a while, or I don't know, you just blew their little bubble that they were giving you a gift. You took away their gift.
Are we taught that though? I feel like somehow
we're not taught that. Okay. I mean, we're
not, we compare ourselves to other women.
We're not taught how to accept compliments.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not.
Which is sad, right?
Right. Because that's what we have to work. That's what I try to work on with, like I said, in these empowerment things and inspiration. But there's techniques to it. I mean, we can all say, well, just get up and do this. No, you have to do something for 90 days, whether it be an affirmation or for 90 days. You think about how many times you say something negative to yourself, and you even just did a swip, like on a little line of piece of paper. Yeah. And then how many positive things you said about yourself, and at the end of the day, you'd start to realize, you know what, you're right, I'm beating myself up. Right. It goes back to this, paper and pencil don't lie. and facts and figures don't lie. They don't lie.
Right.
There it is. And I think sometimes we're hard on ourselves.
Always, yeah.
And look, I'm not saying I never go, oh, I don't like, the shoes and all. But generally, I'm like,
But you probably learned that, I would think, right? Or it kind of got to that point. Were you always that way? Were you always a positive person? Or you kind of learned lessons learned, and it changed
I think, lessons learned. Yeah. I think lessons learned. And it wasn't because I had, a parent. I had kind of, divorce, like a little crazy household. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't
but everyone does. There's always some aspect, I think, in everyone's life growing up that they can point to and say, that was different than everyone else. That some say could have affected me.
Right.
But I'm not going to let it. I'm not going to keep replaying. I think Tony Robbins always says that. Replaying the record over and over again so you can't get out of it. Right?
Yeah.
So
I think I think you're 100%. I think that's what it is. It comes down to the entire thing. It's all about choice. What do you choose to do? How do you choose to interpret? How do you choose to move forward, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of people, you're right, want to just make that choice of, I choose to see it in a negative way, or, or they blame their parents for it, or something.
It's almost like it's justification for the way we are is because of.
Yes.
No, you're that way because you're choosing to be that way.
Right. Well, you had said something to me when we spoke earlier, and you're like, Jill, you don't pick your parents, you don't pick your kids.
No, that's another whole thing for poor women. Yeah. We get so consumed with like, oh, am I doing a good parenting job? First of all, there's no book, right?
Right.
I think back then there was Dr. Ruth Freud or whatever. I don't remember though.
Dr. Ruth. I don't know.
Remember there's some little book or what was a child? Yeah. There was a child therapist, whatever. You're right. You don't pick your parents. And look, most times, a lot of us, or not all, we don't love our parents, or we love them, but we don't like them, or, and again, they do the best that they can do. Mm-hmm. And then we have children, which we think, oh, we should have molded them to be perfectly whatever. But sometimes they do stuff that stinks.
Yeah.
And we're like, I don't think you were very nice to someone or this and that. I mean, I'm very fortunate. I'm lucky and blessed of 2 sons. So I say, okay, maybe. I think I gave good guidance, but I wouldn't say it was all me. I'm sure there was teachers and people and, things that influenced them.
Right.
So I think, that's another thing. And again, I think when we were talking about women where we're really hard on ourselves too, and I see this, is the level of frustration as we have in that 40, 50, 60, depending where you're at, and when you had your kids. You have kids going to college, which are a financial drain. Right?
Oh, yeah, I'm in it.
And an emotional drain. Well, you know what I mean? It's a lot. It's a lot of, the thoughts and, whatever, and trying to guide but give freedom and all of that. And at the same time, we have elderly parents that are also exhausting. And, women sometimes, feel guilty because they're resenting, like, oh my God, how much more can I do?
Right.
I'm now taking care of my parents, and I'm taking care of my kids, and what about me?
Right. Ooh.
That's what gets lost. The what about me? Mm-hmm. And that's when you have this whole bubble start to happen, right? You get frustrated. You start to get angry. You start to get like, this is it. I'm not going to go anywhere. And then
who can you turn to because you don't want to be judged because they think you're a bad person if you were to say that, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah. You have to be able to say, you know what? I get it.
Right.
You're allowed to. It's tiring. It's exhausting.
Right.
And to recognize it and to say it's okay to feel that way.
Right.
It's like if, we see somebody doing something horrible and mean, it's okay to say, hey, I don't like that person or what they're doing. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. If you're feeling like exhausted and drained by something, and sometimes we're taking care of parents that we weren't crazy about or were not great to us, but it's this responsibility burden that many women feel and take it on. And women predominantly take that.
Right.
They're the caregivers of mostly no matter what, and from healthcare and all of that.
So you're supposed to be able to do it all, Mae. You're supposed to be like a CEO and the best mother on the planet and the best wife on the planet and best friends to all women at all times. And it's, how is that even possible?
It's not. And the one phrase is a couple of crazy phrases that get me. And it's called, when people say the work-life balance.
Yes.
I'm like, you people are, there's no such thing. Like, I don't care who you are.
Right.
You're either, and I don't, even in myself, I was always a working mom and outside of the home working mom. And I always, like I said, respect women who work at home, just have as much work.
Yeah.
Sometimes
sure.
I thought I had it
It's a
easier.
harder job.
Yeah. I would say, oh, okay, go to little, the child care and whatever. And then at least I came home and I was all energized and excited.
Right.
I don't know if I would have done so great all day.
It's true.
But I own that. I'm like, but then when I was there. But when you're like in your career and you're trying to get ahead and that's your focus. You're like on a goal and a mission. And what we have to do as women is know when to breathe, though, to take a few minutes or a day or a half a day, say, okay, I need time to regroup. But you are not going to work every day and be able to go to work and then come home and balance the sporting events and the dinner and the paying the bills. Right. And it's not a balance. It's different periods where your life is drilling. It's like drilling into childcare, or you're drilling into, parent care, or drilling into schooling. I think there's always, I don't think there's ever an equal scale all the time.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And I think we try so hard to incorporate that. I think what I look to do is for women to recognize that they do need self-care. And I say it's not a mani and a pedi. In my life, it's essential. I go, that's not self-care. That's like part of the job. That's you got to look good. That's maintenance.
Yeah.
But, whether it be even the 10 minutes in the morning or, a half hour, we have to make that time for ourselves.
Right. No one is going to give you that time. Yeah. You got to make it yourself.
You have to make it yourself. That's the choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. You were talking about, during the break, that you were CEO of a company, and a woman, you worked with a woman, an employee, and you gave her, she wanted to go bring something to her kids. So tell that story.
Oh, so, as a CEO, I have to tell you, I was a female CEO, and the board of directors in both companies were always all male.
Of course. Yeah.
And I would let the women leave and go to a PTA meeting and bring cupcakes for kids. I don't know, a 7-year-old birthday or whatever.
Yeah, right.
And they were like, what are this, where is she? Or with a person. And I'm like, she's giving cupcakes. That's ridiculous. And I'm like, you don't get it. Women work for respect and flexibility. And she gave 110%. And once I would tell them that, like, you got the best person in the world working here.
Right.
All she needs is that space and once in a while, so she doesn't feel like a neglected mother and then become angry, which then is going to transfer into her performance at her job. Right. It's not that hard. It's not chaos.
Right.
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 And I think that was one of the things, I always pride myself in that. I had 98% retention.
Wow.
And I had them 5 from the same management team and yada, yada. Wow. And it was because we worked with people that way. And we also gave back in the company when I was there to charitable. Women love fulfillment. And if you're not getting fulfillment, it was a great opportunity, whether it be for breast cancer or the American Heart. We always had like fun things going on that we got everybody involved. We had March of Dimes. We wore, they paid for, I think that's what makes it different. And I think also sometimes generational, I'm going to say, that because women were not getting equality in work, in pay, and then in positions, women took on this strong testosterone hold.
Yes.
Like to control and lost their femininity.
Yep.
And that side to them, which really it creates success.
Right.
So that's a balancing for women. Like, you can be a female and be feminine.
Be a little soft. You can have a softer side.
Right.
Right?
Right.
We have about 3.5 minutes left, but I wanted to ask you a couple of things. I want to talk about your summit coming up, but first, tips or advice to your younger self. If you could go back, and to the people listening, maybe younger women listening, or moms in the thick of it, moms in the trenches. What's the advice you would?
The advice I would say is don't sweat it. I have to tell you, if the turkey burns and the mashed potatoes don't get out on Thanksgiving, it's fine. And if for a younger self, if you make a college career change and you realize, oh gosh, what did I do? I don't want to do that. That change is okay. Yes. And that we don't strive for perfection. I say we're perfectly imperfect. We strive for excellence and only do the best we can do all the time. And that mistakes are part of our learning experience, and we need to make them. And if you don't make it, life would be pretty boring if we didn't have any crap happen to us.
Right.
I mean, that makes us appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that would be it. And I also have to say, women should be a little bit more risk-taking. They play small, they play low, they are afraid to be judged. That's what I would say, is don't be afraid so much to be judged, because the true people who love you and support you, that's your tribe, and that's who you keep. And the ones that don't,
who cares?
they move on.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. All right. Well, we have 45 seconds. Mae, you quick, your summit's coming up. Tell us about it.
So it's January 11th. It's from 8 in the morning till 5. It's at the Hamlet Golf and Country Club in Comac. It's a great day. It is not about executive leadership, even though there are things that will fulfill you into that. It's we have functional medicine, gut health and hormones. We do mindset. We go back into some traumas. We talk about how to let go, what holds us back, a lot of emotional well-being, things that we don't get to talk about. And honestly, my 5 pillars, and most people know this, right, is nourishment for the body, heart, and soul. Movement, which is exercise, keeping our brains going, spirituality, sex, and red wine. And I cover all 5 of those. Because the number 4 or 5, everybody gets everyone's attention, but those are the things we as women do not talk about, and it is critical for our brain power.
All right, Amaezing Life and Beyond, Amaezing MidLife and Beyond, and Amaezing is AMAE.
Yeah, like my name.
Like your name.
Yep.
All right, so I think we're done. 30 seconds left now. A big thank you to Mae Caime for coming on the show.
Thank you. You are phenomenal. You are a fascinating, powerful woman, and I'm just thrilled I was here.
Oh, I love you. So are you. And thank you for talking about the things that people don't like to talk about.
Yeah.
That's what we're
Come
here.
to the summit so we can get more.
Yeah. So, and definitely go onto our website. I'll post it on mine as well. That is why Mae is a powerful woman, everybody. She pushes through. She keeps going. She pivots. You've been listening to Secrets of Powerful Women. If you're interested in joining my community of amazing women and meeting people like Mae, receiving our newsletter, head to powerfulwomenusa.com. Please follow me on Instagram and Facebook. I'm Jill Conway. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting. And thanks for listening.